There are two philosophies in Hinduism that are just beautiful. They make Hinduism special and they set Hinduism apart from the other world religions. Now, these two philosophies are Advaita Vedanta and Kashmir Shaivism. And they basically teach non-dualism, that we're not separate from each other, we're not separate from God. There's only one soul, and that's God's soul that is within all of us. Now, this is different from the other world religion, which says that there are multiple souls and we are separate from each other and we're separate from God. Now, what's the basic difference between the two philosophies, Advaita Vedanta and Kashmir Shaivism? Now, Advaita Vedanta says that we're living in illusion. Kashmir Shaivism says that the world is Shiva's play, it's Shiva's Leela. Now, some people mistakenly believe that Kashmir Shaivism says the world is real. Well, Kashmir Shaivism says the world is real, but it also says the appearance of the world is an illusion. This is something that Lord Shiva taught, Parvati taught the goddess in the Vedanta Tantra, and she asks him a defining question about non-dualism. She says, how can we be separate and yet be one? You say we're part of God, but God can't be divided into multiple parts. And Shiva explains to her and says that, excellent, you asked the essence of Tantra. And he goes on to tell her that what you're experiencing is an illusory dream. It's like a magic show, an imaginary city in the sky. And then he goes on to say later on in the text that we're living in an illusion. So in that way, both the philosophies are fairly similar. Now, what's the main difference between them? There are 4 or 5 major points. Now, the first is, in Advaita Vedanta, God is called Brahman. Now, Kashmir Shaivism is a pure form of Tantra. There, Shiva is the ultimate reality. Now, because it's Tantra, there's a lot of emphasis also placed on worship of the goddess, of the Devi. Now, there's some worship of the goddess in Advaita Vedanta, but it's not so prominent. In Kashmir Shaivism, the main goddess that was worshipped was Sharda Devi. Sharda Peeth, which is a very ancient temple, was not just a temple, it was also at one time a flourishing university where students used to attend, not just from India, but also from all over the world. Now, you would have heard of Nalanda University. Now, Nalanda University is more famous, but it was a Buddhist university. Sharda was the only Hindu university, only ancient Hindu university. Unfortunately, Sharda Peeth is now in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. It's no longer a functioning temple and it's actually in a state of ruin. Now, moving on to the other differences between the two philosophies, the basic difference comes in the practices. Kashmir Shaivism has a wide variety of practices. Just the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra has something like 112 meditations for self-realization. But the main difference between the practices of the two is that Advaita Vedanta, to some extent, believes in renouncing the world, renouncing life. Whereas Kashmir Shaivism, because it's a form of Tantra, believes in life. It's life enhancing. It doesn't deny anything of life. It says you can use anything in life to increase your awareness level and move towards God. And so it uses a number of practices. It says that if you watch a beautiful sunrise, the joy that you experience from watching that sunrise, if you focus on that joy enough and you maintain that joy long enough, it can transform you. Similarly, the joy of meeting a friend after a long time, the joy of good food, the joy of sex, the joy of music, all these things can transform you and even liberate you. So that's one unique thing about Kashmir Shaivism and Tantra, is that it's life enhancing, it's not life denying. Now, the second major difference is about the role of guru. Now, there are parts of Kashmir Shaivism that say that you don't need a guru, and there are practices that can liberate you without the help of a guru. And there are other parts of Kashmir Shaivism where the role of a guru is very, very important. Now, here, a guru in Kashmir Shaivism was not just a teacher, he was somebody who could transmit his energy to his disciple. This was called Shaktipata, transmission of energy. And if the disciple was ready, that transmission of energy was sufficient to liberate the disciple. And when that energy was transmitted to a disciple, as that energy descended downwards, a disciple would invariably fall forward with the effect of that energy. Now, in Advaita Vedanta, a guru's role is important, but it's not as prominent as what you would find in parts of Kashmir Shaivism. Now, the other aspect of Kashmir Shaivism is it describes the physical world in great detail, how it was formed. There are 36 elements of creation, and Advaita Vedanta has 25 elements of creation. And Kashmir Shaivism says that the physical world was created with energy found in sound, and it goes into great detail on how the physical world was created. There's a whole theory of creation in Tantra. And the first element after Param Shiva or Supreme Shiva is Shiva. Then there's Shiva's main energy Shakti. Then there are three principal energies of Shiva. Then you have Maya and 5 elements that Maya works with, and she forms an illusion and hides our true reality. And then there are 25 other elements that are common with Advaita Vedanta. The other commonality between both of them is that they both say that God's nature is consciousness. But in Advaita Vedanta, consciousness is something that's passive. In Kashmir Shaivism, consciousness is dynamic. It has an energy. It's got a vibration in it. And there's a text in Kashmir Shaivism that goes into it in greater detail called the Spanda Karikas, which says that you will find vibration in everything in the physical world. And the Spanda Karikas was written in the 8th century, and our scientists in the 20th century confirmed what the Spanda Karikas was saying, what Kashmir Shaivism was saying, that all matter at its root level, at its atomic and subatomic level, is always vibrating. Now, it's because we are always in a state of vibration that you may have heard of the laws of manifestation. I'm going into a side issue here, that how do we create our future reality? It depends on how we are vibrating, what we're being. If we're being happy, that's what we'll produce in our life. If we're being sad, those are the events we produce in our life. And that's all because everything's in a state of vibration. It's what you're vibrating with, what you're in tune with, that's what you produce in your life. Now, how do you get enlightened? Advaita Vedanta says that you have to remove ignorance in order to get enlightened. And in Kashmir Shaivism, it says that enlightenment is remembering or recognizing that our true nature is Shiva. Now, they both say the same thing a little differently, but it's basically setting aside the fact that we feel we're separate. And in Kashmir Shaivism, there's an entire school of thought on recognition, on recognizing, and they have a wide variety of practices. Now, which is good for you? Which should you follow? Should you follow Advaita Vedanta or should you follow Kashmir Shaivism? Now, that depends on what appeals to you. My personal recommendation is learn from both. They're both wonderful philosophies and they can transform your life completely for the better. Now, the main texts in Advaita Vedanta that I would recommend is the Katha Upanishad and the Ashtavakra Gita. That's one of my favorites in Advaita Vedanta. In Kashmir Shaivism, the two most important texts are the Shiva Sutras, Shiva's message that was given in the 8th century to the sage Vasugupta, and the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. Now, the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra is a very old text. It's a few thousand years old. It's Lord Shiva's first teaching, which he gave to the 7 Sapta Rishis. So whichever philosophy you want to try, go ahead. It'll transform your life completely for the better. If you want to know more about either of these philosophies, just put in a question in the comment section below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.